These are the words of Archangel Jibril, the Holy Spirit, related to God's decree upon the unification of all religions that exist in this world. And this is the discourse conveyed by His Excellency the Holy Spirit, welcoming modern spirituality and absolute faith unto God the only one. Modern spirituality is non-religion, but belief in God. And it puts forward more humans' eschatology and divinity in the perception of apocalyptic through science, especially the UFO phenomenon and the signs of doomsday. Lately, there has been world motivators emerge from various ethnic groups and religions who believe in unification of all religions and world peace. New spirituality has no religion, but does not ignore the existence of God the Almighty and the Only One. Verily we, angels, always embrace ourselves to be the enlightenment agents for those motivators, and always pour out God's direction and stipulation that are being descended down. And they actively respond to their enlightening inner voice through channeling or focused meditation. Thereof, inner communication is connected to God's enlightenment by the angels. The communication of angel, which is blocked all this time amongst radical and fanatic people, could have the way to stream the enlightenment to mankind. Therefore, the angels feel comfortable and relief when they can flow out the pure enlightenment to the minds of motivators. It is like a waterfall that flows into the clean rivers. Thus, ideas of the motivators are clear, soothing, and pleasing to be heard and absorbed. Various kinds of goals to create spiritual insight, which do not absorb into specific controversial doctrines and avoid religious conflicts, have been dissolved in the motivators' effort to prevent the accusation of perversion and mislead of their teachings. Therefore, they choose the safe and neutral way based on science with universal norms. That is how the influence of New Age becomes worldwide through the figures of world motivators. Modern spiritualism develops in accordance with the current era and God's stipulation as well. Such it is when God gives His blessing. Hegemony of mainstream religions will soon be expired and cannot compete with the world motivators who feel the pleasantness of getting the certainty of God's statements that are in line with their dedications to the Word. And their role will unavoidably develop fast, especially when the word of terrorism has reached its climax and the Islamic State has come forward to declare itself as the group of the most aggressive Islamic radical, and it has shocked the world. However, the Islamic State will reign not, considering the world wills not to accept them. And because of their viciousness, the Islamic State becomes the common enemy of the nations, for the world is downhearted by the existence of the Islamic State, which frightens all nations, including Islamic countries themselves. Therefore, the foundation of the fight for world peace can be realized through universal religious teaching, such as what is being developed by the world motivators, and their followers will be more comfortable and established with their teachings, which are neutral and directly guaranteed by God. World peace then becomes the aim of all people. Then the unification of religions is accomplished by itself. The New Era movement is a spiritual movement, which is a unification of East and West spirituality without tendency, solely wishes to present the calmness of spiritual practice, which is logic and felt comfortably in mind. It is not only as a quest, rather a firmness in choosing a faith that leads a life in true spiritual, and is always passionate to get closer to God through all reasoning prospects, particularly passion toward reasoning upon science that is directed to God the greatest. Thus unification of all religions unavoidably universalizes by itself. How God's blessing toward the universal belief of non-religion simplifies the appeasement of religious enmity and world peace. From the observation upon the groups who believe in universal faith, there are groups of the New Age that developed significantly in the world. Regarding the spirituality of the New Age, nowadays it has significant numbers of adherents throughout the world. Generally, this movement is already based on idealism of unification of all religions. It is the unification of the East and West spirituality, as well as the traditions of metaphysics, which stated a philosophy centered on man. It aims to create an interfaith spirituality without involving dogmas that bind and incorporate futuristic science with spirituality and refer to universalism. The New Age movement emerges as the result of men feeling stagnant upon religions. It is the time that men undergo tediousness and feel that religion can no longer overcome the hardship of life pressure, violence, oppression, and war. The New Age varies, consist of several streams. Some are syncretisms, and some others are secularism. But all groups of the New Age rather shun away from disagreement. For indeed, their existence is due to their tediousness upon violence and conflict. They stay focused in believing the existence of God, in the stance of idealism of pantheism, which stated that all is God and God is all. As for the philosophy of New Age pantheism, it is united in the modernity of futuristic science that acknowledges not the concepts of sin, heaven, hell, Satan, angel, prophet, and holy man. However, they acknowledge the concepts of positive and negative cosmology in the human's energy. The New Age shuns away from religious dogmas. Thus, they wish to release themselves from anything that could intersect with the religious fanatic people. Hence, New Age knows not the concepts of prophet and imam, but more familiar with the concept of master and spiritual guru or mentor, who emphasizes their guidance on self-consciousness to find the true selves and the positive energy inside every human being. Thus, the relationship with God through meditation or channeling, whatever is believed by the New Age groups, they have been attached to the universalism of unification of all religions. And that is the main point for spiritual renewal that I am conveying for the sake of world peace. Thus, it is proper that I take the New Age to know heaven and the role of angel in heaven. And it is proper not to disregard the existence of devils in human's world, although that term is not comfortable to be acknowledged, considering spiritual modernity of New Age wishes not to be disturbed by all terms that is illogic. Thus, they prefer to use the term negative aspect that exists within human due to imbalance and disharmony of the cosmic energy inside oneself, and that is not acknowledged as the existence of a devil who has personality. Whatever their terms upon the intercontradictive perception inside man's self, it is difficult to be separated from the contribution of the spirit creatures, for man's conscience could communicate with the good spirit or evil spirit. If man could feel the inner dialogue inside himself, surely it is not merely his conscience voice. For if the evil conscience wishes to be overcome, then he should lift up the good conscience and then bring it up to the good natural thinking. Thus it becomes a good stance to reject the evil conscience. Good mind cannot instantly soften the conscience from the evil mind. If the temptation is more alluring, or there is a pressure of urgency, if man would deepen the positive energy inside himself through self-seclusion of meditation, so he could strengthen his self-confidence to conquer the negative energy, then actually he has won his voice of conscience. Good consideration from the voice of conscience, when it is followed, then clearly it will direct to the right and good path. If it is continuously followed, then the voice of conscience could be felt actively provides some other good ideas. And if it is continuously followed, man commonly said he receives God's blessing of guidance. Therefore, the evil thought and evil mind will weaken by itself. If the evil mind is just followed because someone has an urgent interest or desire. It is verily could be interpreted as a negative aspect inside oneself, due to the presence of a crossing way in his mind or imbalance of the cosmic energy inside himself. So human is considered able to judge himself due to his own logical mind. When he wishes to avoid his analogy from the devil's temptation, thus man will always easily direct himself to be a good and holy man, for he will respond not to the factor beyond himself that could influence him. If all people basically are good, and the diversity of man's personal choice is categorized as emancipation, or just a matter of a choice of taste, thus what about the crime of the drugs kingpins, or the viciousness done by the Islamic State terrorists? How many people are like that? Do they have no conscience that reminds them? Or how could they become that vicious if all men are basically good? And it is enough that man just attempts to balance himself in accordance with the cosmic equilibrium. Unfortunately, the independent man, with their logic of supernatural science, possess not the feeling of antipathy as an indication of the devil's seduction. For they believe not of the existence of devil, whereas devil is a spirit creature, the creature of negativity, one of the cosmic balancing force, which form both of positive and negative energy. All reaction of interactions that rule the macrocosmic and microcosmic life in the universe, surely they originate from the unification of the positive and negative energy, since both are bound within the law of positive or negative nature. When the positive law of nature is being applied, the elements of the positive nature react in the same direction, and just perform a binding reaction when they find the elements of negative nature entering their path of movement. Such is the dominant positive elements make changes or development in nature. Thus, on the contrary, the negative element, when they become dominant, which the change or the development is strengthened, surely the change is a negative one. As for the habitat of the natural elements, it is certainly divided into two. We could analogize one of the elements as a tasteful fruit plant. That is the positive element of nature, and the other is a parasite plant as a manifestation of negative element. Such is that the parable of two opposite sides of natural elements. Both certainly coexist, and their existence should be acknowledged, although all people would only acknowledge the positive side and avoid the name of devil, since people long for serene and peaceful earth without any violence and war. It is not wrong. The people who want not the existence of Satan, sin, and hell. And it is even a pure movement from one side of view of life that seeking enlightenment and unwilling to get in touch with the darkness. Even the New Age movement will actualize an anti-violence movement that could bridge the Eden's teaching, which is universal and also anti-violence. As God is declaring the abrogation of all religions and unification of all religions, the Holy Book of Eden is created to welcome the modern spirituality, which is universal, absolutely believe in the only God, and on a futuristic vision to create a holy civilization on the new earth and to enter the intergalactic civilization. Anyone who is levitated has already chosen the universality of belief and shuns away from that religious stigma. They will come to God's stipulation upon the unification of religions without any differences. Because of that, God descends down His heaven and His holy book that contains important solutions for the world, which is very much expected by all people who are restless, looking for the serenity and peace. Eden's teaching is God's modern teaching that is logic and universal.